You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author and professional speaker and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, where we bring some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different. We got another author from the Creative Edge crew, baby. Another author from the Creative Edge crew. Because to this person's wonderful neighbors, he's known as a quiet and assuming guy who works a blue-collar job. But what they don't know is that he also writes dark speculative fiction. And his work has been printed all over the world, and not only that, he has 3 novels on the market and a 4th in the final stages of publication. And looks like he's got more than 4, because if you go on his Amazon page, my man is killing the game. He is freaking killing the game. Freaking books for days. I'm telling you, in this whole setting, if you want to be stuck inside with a bunch of books, you might as well head to this guy's Amazon page and pick up all of them, especially since they're all in ebook form and a couple are in audiobook form. And not only that, he likes to base his own writing style that was influenced by Bob Armour Cameron, Joe R.S. Lansdale, as well as John Sanford. So let's give it up for the one, the only MJ Preston. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing fabulous. It's like I feel like I found your trigger word. It's Baltimore traffic on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yes, indeed. It's like, oh shoot, traffic. It's like, okay, the gates are open. My man's got all the content flowing, baby. That's right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, the fabulous thing about all introductions are not allowed to be 54 days long. So mind letting the folks know who are living under rocks and bunkers who is MJ Preston.
Well, as you said, and actually, just to update, that I've actually my 4th novel did get published. It went live on February 25th, so I have 4 novels out now. You know, I'm a guy's worked blue collar my whole life. Okay, I started out in 1986. I joined the Canadian military. I served in the military for 12 years, and I started writing earlier than that. But when I started writing, I started writing my first novel in the military, and because I was in the military, I shelved it. And I was in the military for 12 years, and then I got out, and I started driving truck for a living, and I picked up that original manuscript 12 years later, and I said, geez, I should really try to finish it. And I did. And I didn't think I was going to have anything else to give to the world. I thought I'd just, finish that one book and good, we'll shoot it out the door. And then I went up and became an ice road trucker because I was getting ready to quit trucking. And a friend of mine invited me up there. And all of a sudden I looked at this beautiful place up there, the twisting curtains of the Aurora Borealis and just endless ice field and every animal you can imagine. I went, wow, this would be a real cool place to write a book from. so that's what I did. And so basically and now I've started a series about chasing a serial killer that's from a police procedural, and that seems to be doing really well as well. But I've always been a writer. I've been a writer since I was a little kid. When I was in the military, even though I wasn't pursuing fiction, I was writing military reportage. And when I was a young man, just before I joined the military, I was writing movie reviews for a local paper. I wasn't making any dough at it, but I was getting to go see movies free every week, and I got my name published in the paper. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I am. I'm just like anybody else sitting on the other side of that screen. I'm just a person. This is just what I chose, my path that I have chosen, and I'm just like anybody else. I'm no different, except maybe when I'm looking at you, I might be analyzing the heck out of you.
Does that come from your time in the military?
No, like I say, as I look at people, I analyze them all the time because you meet a person in Walmart and they're a little unusual. Hey man, you might go back into my filing cabinet and turn up in a story later, or be a character in a story, or simply just when you look at certain people or situations, that becomes the genesis for an idea, and that's where it starts. And then that's pretty cool thing to have. Uh, my nickname when I was a kid, because I really stunk in elementary school, I stunk because I was always staring out the window, right? And but my nickname in elementary school, they started calling me Nowhere Man after the Beatles song, the Nowhere Man. Anyways,
Nice.
it is because my mind was off nowhere. But what I was really doing was I was daydreaming, I was analyzing, I was looking, and that I understand that now as an adult. But back then, I don't, they were always just daydreaming. I was thinking about going out and playing, soccer or football or baseball. And I was just looking out the window thinking up stories. I was looking at stuff and just phasing out basically. So, and that's kind of how I've come to where I am now. And I do it. I take great pleasure in it. It's a lot of work. The best reward you can get is that people like your stuff because you send it out, and if it tanks, that's a tough thing to put a year into a book or something like that. But I've been getting pretty good reception from it. So, and that's the reward at the end of the game. I mean, everybody loved to have Stephen King or John Sanford's money, but readers, that's why you write the story. You're really trying to just create this giant campsite fire, and you're spinning a tale for a bunch of people, and you're hoping that they're going to like it. So, so that's MJ Preston.
Sweet. And thanks for your 12 years of service, too. What branch of the military did you serve in?
Well, judging by my ears, I was in the artillery for 12 years because I wear hearing aids now. I don't wear them all the time. Like I'm just wearing a set of headphones over my head. I can hear you fine, but I got the volume turned up. But yeah, I was in the artillery. I never saw anything overseas. Like I didn't have to. I was lucky enough not to have served in a war. I was a peacetime soldier, but it was an experience. And it's just another one of those things as you go through life, that makes you who you are, I think. And I grew up in the military. Really, I joined when I was 21, and I was out by the time I was, I think, 31 or 32. And but boy, oh boy, you learn how to grow up real fast doing that job, and you learn something about the people around you, and you build lifelong friendships that I still have today. So, but it was like that's another step, right? And so this is where I am, and I appreciate that with the service thing. I always feel a little uncomfortable when somebody says that, but I don't know why, but because I think that I was just doing my job.
Hey, it's all good. Always got on to those, even peacetime or not, still got on to those who actually went through the boot camp and actually lived to tell the tale. Especially for
Yeah,
12 years past that.
yeah, boot camp is a real trick. It's that's the funny thing is, see, I went to boot camp and I did okay. I didn't do too bad. I kind of just, got below the current and just swam with everybody else, but try not to stick out too much so they didn't notice me and yell at me nearly as much as everybody else. Uh, and I figured when boot camp was over, it was going to be great. It was going to be cool because, that'd be the end of all the nonsense. And I had to go to battle school for 12 more weeks, and battle school made boot camp look like a walk in the park. So I'll tell you, if you're interested, I can tell you a funny story.
Oh, sure.
Um,
Go ahead.
when I got out, I went to boot camp in a place called Cornwallis, which is on the East Coast. And so when I graduated from there, we had to go to the artillery school, which was in Shiloh, Manitoba, which is basically a desert in the middle of Canada. And so we got picked up by a sergeant who was, escorting us back, and we got on the airplane to fly. And back then, liquor was still complimentary on airplanes. Like you could have a beer or whatever like that. So, you got 31 young Army recruits that just graduated, and somebody saying they can have free beer. So they're all having a beer. And the sergeant's there, and we're saying, "So what's battle school like, Sergeant?" He's, "Oh, call me Sarge." He's like, real nice guy. Eh? He says, "Oh, it's a workout, but you make a lot of friends and blah blah blah." And anyway, so some of the guys got a little bit tipsy on the way, and by the time we got to the camp, well, they were well beyond that, and we were all in full dress uniform, and the bus stopped in front of the barracks, and the sergeant stepped out and turned into a werewolf. And I kid you not. I mean, we were down in the mud doing push-ups in our full dress uniforms, and I was like, wow, this is going to be tough. And it was, but it just was funny, the transformation, because he was our buddy all the way there until we got there, and then he said things that I just can't say on the radio, right? But I mean, it was yeah, it was a tough go. But again, I think it's all character building, everything that you do, right? I mean, and I got through that. I didn't make a lot of money in the Army. It didn't pay much, but you meet really really decent people. You meet them from all over the world, you and that's pretty cool too.
Did he become a character in one of the books as well, or is he going to be in one of the future novels of yours?
Well, I've had people certainly that inspire characters in books that I've met, and in the military too. And actually, in my second novel, Kate Event, there are two soldiers that are military snipers. They're veterans. They're no longer in the military, but they're up on the ice and they're best friends. And one guy has one leg because he lost it, but they stuck together. These two guys, and that's always kind of a nod. I'll always give a little nod to our military. I love the military, and it's just a tip of the hat to them as well when I include them in a story, and I'll throw in a name that somebody from my past might recognize, but we're pretty discreet about it and that sort of thing. But I mean, they'll read it and they'll, oh, okay, gee, what's this? But it's I just, yeah, I have, I look back on my service and with great pride. I served with good people. They were decent people. And I like to say that I won the Cold War single-handedly with a few help from a few friends. That's a bad
So,
joke, eh? Tum.
don't worry, you're in the right place for bad jokes. Definitely in the right place. Yes, indeed. Heck, since there's an age gap, you probably have a whole arsenal of them waiting to release at random moments throughout the day.
Yeah, well, I've crashed and burned on many a stage.
Burned like a phoenix, right?
Maybe not the Phoenix. I was thinking more like a meteor, but yeah.
Oh man. Well, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Was able to have that awesome time in military, did all the truck driving to not only pay the bills, but able to unleash your inner child and tap into your imagination.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, I still wear blue collar. I mean, I'm not rolling in dough, and I don't know if I will be ever rolling in dough. I don't. A lot of writers, they have to have a second income. It's a big market. It's a tough market, right? But I'm hoping. This is my game plan. That's my retirement. I don't have to have Stephen King's money, but if I can earn enough to get by and take care of this, that's my plan. Get up, write 5 hours a day, and you know send a book out, and if it makes money, we'll write another one. And if people keep want to reading it, we'll keep writing. And that's what we do right now. I do a time management thing, which is that's part of the deal. But you know what, it seems to this year seems to be just kind of peaking. I'm all over the place, and the reviews are coming in, and things are looking up. So we'll see. But I've had no movie offers, and James Cameron will not answer my calls at all. So
uh, Not yet, right?
yeah, well, he's probably working on a restraining order. But anyway.
Oh man, beautiful. Well, what led you to going into the world of dark speculative fiction? That's not something everybody would dive into.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing. When you write a story, in the essence of the tale that you're telling from beginning to end, you become like God. Like, not the real God, but you become the God over the story because you decide the fate of everything. What's going to happen? Who's going to live? Who's going to die? Who's going to do this? What I find most fascinating about the darker stuff is you get to see people do things they wouldn't normally do. Like you can put people into positions where they have to make really hard choices right down to the core. And it's an interesting place to be. I'm never going to be a literary guy where I'm going to write a tale of two cities. I'm just not that guy. I bring in for a story. I want you to have fun. I maybe want you to get a little bit scared, but that's the gig, and I want you to walk away at the end of the story and say, "Hey, you know what? I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. Wow, that's kind of cool how that did." Because for me, when I do it, when I write it, it rolls out of me almost like a movie in front of me. If I could type as fast as I'm seeing it, I could write 100 books a year.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
but but I can't. I'm not a great typist, but I do my best. But so it takes me about a year to get a book from start to finish, sometimes longer depending on the project. But I uh, I really like this zone because it's like I say, you get to do things that you wouldn't be able to get to do, and I have a black sense of humor at times. So sometimes what somebody else might find funny, I find particularly funny. So I'll work it into a book. I wrote a horror story, or that my first novel was called The Equinox, and there was a scene in it where um, a guy had come into an off ramp into a rest area where there'd been a massacre of a monster had massacred everybody in the rest area, and he's just rolling in, and then all of a sudden he sees the monster, who's got a clutch of flesh in its hand, and it sees him and it starts chasing him backwards down the ramp, beating this clutch of innards that it had taken from one of its victims on his hood. And when I wrote it, and then when I put it out there, and people say, "Wow, that was just a vivid scene," and I said I was laughing all the way through that scene because it made me laugh, because I have a black sense of humor, that this guy's trying to back up down the road to get away from this thing, and he's being chased by this. So you get to, like I say, you get to do things like that. And for some people say, "Oh man, that's kind of creepy." But you know what? I'm no different than anybody else. I have two grandchildren. I love them dearly. I got a couple of beagle dogs. Not any different in that way. But I do find this genre, I guess you could say, of writing uh, just a fantastic place to kind of just swim around with your creativity.
Ah, swim around with your creativity. I love it. Love it. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. It's almost like you're a shark in a giant ocean.
Well, you are, I guess, a little bit. You certainly, yeah, you're gobbling stuff up, just metaphorically a little bit. Because you're walking around the mall, and you start biting on people, but you are that's what I do, metaphorically, as I do. I certainly am, and I feed this need of mine to create stories. So I look at a lot of things. My wife is a huge influence as well, and because the book that I've just finished for that and its predecessor, Highwayman, they're about like the FBI is chasing a serial killer through these two books, and this is a series that I'm going to do. It's going to be different stories all the way. It's not going to be the same continual story, but she had a couple of nightmares that inspired both the books, and she woke me up. And back back when she had the first nightmare, I was in my 20s. I was, soldier. I was in good physical shape, like nobody's messing with me sort of thing, like that. And I got up. First, I checked my kids after she told me about this nightmare. Then I went out, checked all the locks, make sure the house is all secure. And then I went back to bed, and it scared the crap out of me. And I thought, I got to write a book about this, or I got to build on this. And I did. And that's where these two books came from. So That's it. I'm a voyeur, man. Everything I see, I'm looking at it, I'm absorbing. I'm not using it all. And certainly if you come and tell me something personal, like, that you wouldn't want something repeated, I would never, ever infringe on that. But out in public, it's fair game. You see, you see a husband and wife fighting, or maybe they're kissing, you know, you look at that, and I kind of analyze it down, and then I put it in the back in the memory, and we see where it goes from there. Some of it materializes, some of it doesn't, but it's the constant process every day, even when I'm working, looking around. So anyhow, so that's me getting redundant.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Funny enough, redundancy can sometimes be a good thing for those who have hard heads. Yes, indeed. Especially during the teenage years.
Oh boy.
Yes, indeed. Funny enough, reminds that old saying is when people are sick and tired of hearing something, they're just them beginning to get it.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I like that one.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, congratulations on the Highwayman series. Yes, indeed. No weed involved, I'm assuming, for the Highwayman.
No, I don't think so. Not that I've never partook, but if I did that, I think back to my school years when we would do that on our lunch hour, and then we'd come in and we had a reading period, and I'd start reading a paragraph, and by the time I got to the end of the last paragraph, I go, "What was that?" And then I go back up to the beginning of the paragraph, and I start over again. Yeah, no, I can't focus with that. So there's certain things you can focus on, like music, hot tubs, all sorts of stuff. But when it comes to writing, no, I have to have a completely clear mind. So I do not do that when I write.
I don't blame you. That was another one of my bad jokes because, the Highwayman and being high with weed. And,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Now that was sneaky.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, okay. That's pretty funny too. But it was,
Yeah, that's a meteor moment for me, too.
well, I could have gone farther. I could have, when we were doing rails on top of a bar, and all sorts of. But no. Anyways, so I'm trying to strike that balance where you don't want to be the stuffy white guy. Weed is a what is a gateway drug? That's what they say. I heard Cheech Marin talking about that, and he said that weed is a gateway drug. It's a gateway to a nap. So, anyways,
Do those help you become more creative or keep the creative going, at least the naps anyway?
yeah. Well, hey, naps can be handy, for sure.
That's what I'm talking about. Woohoo! Well, it's fabulous. So it's actually amazing though that you're able to take the negative moment at the time of your wife's nightmare and actually put it into a book, into your current series, The Highwayman, and you got two of the books out so far. So tell us a bit more about the series for those who may want to dive into that and take a break from some nonfiction.
Sure. The first book, Highwayman, is based on the rise of a serial killer, and his name is Lance Bellinger. And he wants to be the greatest serial killer of all time, but he doesn't want to get caught. And so this is really about his rise. He murders a woman and her young child. After a bar encounter, he goes back to her place, and uh, they're intimate, and then all of a sudden he murders her and her child, and that's his first kill. And it follows him as he evolves and becomes better at what he does. And he's not a superhero or anything like that. He's basically your stock serial killer, but he's extra careful that he doesn't want to get caught, but he wants to be infamous. He wants everybody to know who he is. The other half of the story is that he's being chased by an FBI agent named Lewis Ash, who's facing retirement. It's his last case, and they're getting no clues. And this guy, for some reason, he's going all over the country. He may be in Baltimore one day, and a body will turn up, or he'll be, and then he'll be in Oregon 3 days later. So they're trying to pinpoint who he is and what his mode of transportation is. Then they're calling him Highwayman because they think he might be a truck driver or somebody along that line. And so that's where really the genesis of the first book comes from. But the story doesn't end in the first book. It ends with the second book, which is just came out, which is 4. And 4 is Highwayman Book Two. And this follows the last 2 weeks as they're running down to try and catch this guy. And it happens within a course of 2 weeks. So the first book is a buildup of over 8 years of, this guy becoming what he's become, and the police are trying to figure out who he is, but they still haven't been able to. And then, like I say, the second book is about the chase down, and it's just a fun book. There's lots of action in it, lots of interesting characters. And the intention is with these 2 books now that this story is concluded, when I write the next one, which is in progress, I'm going to draw characters from these 2 books and tell different stories with them. So that's the whole idea of the series.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about right there. Powerful right there, man. And that's really interesting. It's like, all right, so you got the two-parter. All right, the guy in the finale. Won't spoil it because I don't even know what to spoil.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I won't give any spoilers on it, but I mean, but I will say that I can say this, I guess. At the end of the second book, 4, you're going to get an intro into what the third book is going to be about. So, and I'm going to try and do that with every one of these books for as long as I write them. If I write, another 2 or 3, they're going to intro the next book. So you'll have an idea. You'll get like just a little opening to what the next book will be. So hopefully that'll be enough to lure readers to, come along and join and read it and enjoy. But we shall see.
Heck yes, right there. And some say that's like really the best way to do fiction is to make the reader want to turn the page and keep turning the pages over and over again and find out what happens next.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, and hopefully, like I say, I'll try not. I'll know if it's becoming stale if I carry on with this series for a couple of books. I'll know at some point where it's going to have to end. But I also have in between that, I'm looking at writing another straight up horror novel as well. So we'll see where that goes too. But for now, I think there'll be a third Highwayman book coming. But I'm really happy with what I'm hearing. I got a great review in the San Francisco Review of Books. They called it a stunning achievement, which that's pretty cool. So, 55 years old, I'm happy where I am right now in the world, and I hope people will take my hand and join me as I run down the rabbit hole and tell these stories.
Sweet. Will there be bunny ears involved?
Not yet. Let me think about it. But you just put something into the filing cabinet. So,
That's right. Highwayman, Book 17, The Bunny Ear Murderer.
yeah, the bong killer.
Well, there we go. That could be Book 16, and that leads to the bunny ears. The weed was so crazy. It was the kind they put road spray on, and he leaves bunny ears on the dead bodies because they're hopping into the afterlife.
I think I'll get out before I write that book. But anyway.
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Yes, indeed. Fabulous. So, as you're going with the Highwayman series, do you think there may be other genres of fiction you might delve into?
I think one day I'll write a memoir, but it'll be more personal for the family. Um, Strangely, I discovered, my wife discovered a couple of years ago when I had an aunt pass away, and for some reason my wife went on this genealogy search, and we found out that we are my last name is Preston, and we are related. I'm directly related to Irish royalty in Ireland. And I guess the Prestons were a long time in Ireland. So there's a castle out there, which is called Gormanston Castle, and that my family built that. So I'm thinking about going to Ireland and telling those people to get out of my house. It's been turned into a university, by the way. So I don't know. So I think I want to memoir that because this is part of my history that I didn't know a lot about, and there's some really cool stuff there. But I want to do, but that's more of a personal thing, and I think will be for my grandchildren, and maybe they pass on, just to know their heritage. But yeah, I don't know. I actually was speaking with a screenplay writer a while back too, and I'm actually thinking about taking a kick at the can on that and see if there's something to it. This guy used to be a full-time writer and he became a screenplay writer, and I guess he sold a movie that Guy Pearce, the actor, starred in, and so it's something I might want to push and look at a little bit too. But who knows? I Right now I'm just going to keep writing books and hope people read them, and hope I keep getting reviews. And as long as the gray matter doesn't fade away, we'll keep going.
Sweet. So, as you're on these interviews promoting your wonderful work, is there a question you wish other folks would ask you more often?
Um, hmm, a question they would ask me. Well, no, just no, actually, not really. I interact a lot with readers through Facebook, and not so much Twitter, but more Facebook and whatnot. And I've made some friends of some readers, so I like to interact with people. So there's not really a lot of questions I get asked. I don't get the. I think the only cliche question I ever got was, "What inspired you to become a writer?" And the only reason I say that, it's asked every time almost. I don't think you asked it, but it's a tough question to answer, other than my kind of roundabout saying I'm just this guy that walks around and sticks things in a filing cabinet in his head and then he tries to put them on paper. But for the most part, no, I don't think so. I'm like I said, I'm just a guy like anybody else. This is what I do. I hope that people like it and they read it. I don't need to walk on a red carpet anywhere, but a couple of royalty checks would be cool. So, hey, buy a book. That's it. That's me.
That's right. Who needs a red carpet? Royalty checks are always better, baby. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That's the real royalty.
Yeah. No kidding. I think the paparazzis would annoy me after a while. So I'd end up putting them in a story. So, anyways,
Woo! Well, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the year of 2020, what advice would you give to yourself?
25 years old. Uh, I'll tell you what I give to myself: buy Microsoft, okay, or buy Apple. That's stock right now. Buy it now. I don't. Well, you know what? That's a cool thing because I don't. It'd be nice to be that age to have that, but have the wisdom you have now. Because I was always telling my kids when they were in their 20s, I wish I was 24 years old, or instead of 25. And my son asked me why. I said, because back then, man, I knew everything, everything, right? Now, not so much. I think it would be cool to go back to that time because you have a little bit more critical thinking as you get older. And I think that most people do. I think, we all kind of settle down and start looking around and analyzing things differently. And I think that we live in a world now where it can be very polarized, but I've come to a place where I think we need to stop talking about each other and start talking to each other, even if we don't agree with each other about certain things, including whatever politics, whatever you want to call it. But if we start talking to each other, we might understand that the person on the other end of that conversation, even though you vehemently disagree with them on whatever level, political, religious, whatever, is still a person just like you, and they might have a reason for doing what they do. And maybe you won't agree with it, but if you could listen to them instead of shouting them down, and if they do the same for you, it's just going to be a better world. So, and that's kind of where I am now. I try to stay out of all of it. I have my personal opinions, my politics and all that, but I try to stay out of it because you know what? At the end of the day, that's all we are. We're all the same. Just some of us, like kookier things than other people, or some people think we like kookier things than other people. So, anyways, that, and I'd love to have my 25-year-old body back. That would be nice. But yeah, I don't know if I'd do anything a whole lot different, but maybe buy some stock in Apple because it was going to be big.
Oh, yeah. Bigger than a 1 foot tall brick wall. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But solid advice. Learn to talk to each other instead of about each other to each other. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Unless you dress it up as a novel.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah. That's right. Dance. Dance. You are now in the novel. And you'll
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
If your name's Jenny, it's going to be Tyrone in this book.
There you go.
Oh, man. Well, all righty. For those who want to keep in magical contact with you and all that you're doing, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Well, they could, you know what? First of all, they can look me up on Facebook. I have a public Facebook page, and I monitor it. I don't have anybody else working it for me. But I will warn you that if you're gonna send me a friend request, I'm going to check you out. And if you're a young girl in several different stages of undress in that, and that's all you're posting is, you're not going to get on. So, uh, because my wife would kill me. No, but seriously, there's just so many bots and stuff like that. So Facebook's good. They can come to my website, which is mjpreston.net, and that's got all my books and stuff. It's a work in progress right now, but everything is available. You can actually read excerpts from the books right on the page, and there's some samples from the audiobooks as well, and there's a little bit of video of me pontificating as well if you want to check that out. Or you can check out Wild Blue Press. That is my publisher. They are the guys that handle all my work. Or if anybody out there is deciding that they would like me to come on their podcast or something, they can get a hold of my publicist, Mickey Mickelson, who's just a great guy, and he's at the Creative Edge website. So that's basically it. Or you can go on Amazon and just buy my books and ignore me altogether. That's fine too. So
It's like, no, I'll forget you. I want these books. My precious. But hey, it's always great to hear the voice behind the books themselves because you get to learn so much, especially with fiction books and fiction writers, because it takes a whole nother level of creativity and dedication to really publish that. So appreciate your time and the wisdom that you shared.
well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. I haven't had this much of a laugh on an interview in quite a while. And I love how you set me up, Highwayman. Yeah, he's really.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, no, it's been really fun. I enjoyed this immensely. I'll come back if I'm invited.
Woohoo! Always invited back. Always invited back indeed. Yes, indeed. Don't even have to be invited black. Always invited back. Yes, indeed. So, any parting words for the folks still listening, MJ?
Yeah, please just check me out on the web, and like I say, shoot me a line. I love interacting with folks, and if you're interested in a good scary read, I'm your guy, and I promise I'll hold your hand all the way through till it gets dark. Then I'm gone, and you're on your own. So see you later.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers.